Hello everyone, welcome to another session with Ascent Realty powered by Ascent Radio. Today we'll be talking about taxes that are applicable to real estate in Nigeria. So basically real estate in Nigeria is subject to various taxes and levies, and these taxes and levies are very important to the overall cost of property ownership and transaction in Nigeria. So it is important for everyone, especially property owners and people that want to acquire property or occupy a property, to know these taxes and levies, because it affects the financial aspect of real estate in Nigeria. So now let's talk about taxes. What is tax? Tax are compulsory levies that are implemented on individuals, corporations, or businesses by the government. Basically, these are compulsory levy imposed by competent authority, which is the government, for public purposes. And generally, taxes are imposed directly or indirectly. Direct taxation occurs when people are taxed for no particular service or good delivered, but for the maintenance of the government. But indirect taxation occurs where a person is levied for a particular good or transaction or service that is rendered to that person. So basically, property taxation or taxation under real estate or property refers to the financial levy placed on owners of properties or occupiers or purchasers by the government in order to raise revenue in property or real estate. So in Nigeria, property taxation is applicable in, there are various ways that taxes are applicable in real estate in Nigeria, and this is because of the federal system of government, which allows the constitution give each state power to make laws that govern taxation in each state. So now let's talk about the transactions that require taxes. So some of the transactions is sale of land, mortgage, or lease. So let's talk about the taxes now that are required in real estate. The first one is stamp duties. The second one is capital gain tax. The next one is personal income tax, and then there's companies income tax and tenement rates. So aside these taxes, there are also levies and charges that you pay under real estate, which include consent fees, registration fee, and ground rent. So now let's talk about those taxes that I mentioned earlier on. The first one is stamp duty. This is usually done at the stage of perfection of conveyance or of an instrument. It is not paid on the transactions or the property, but paid on the document. So basically, it's a document tax. This is because where there are some transactions that require the stamp, the government stamp. So in this type of document, that is where you have to pay tax. No, and it's not in all. So some of the documents that need to be stamped are maybe agreement or the agreement for the sale of property or deed of assignment or power of attorney, lease, and mortgage. So where you know that these are the transactions you're going to do, you know that these documents are required and you need to pay for stamp in order for you need to pay your stamp duty in order for these documents to be stamped. The next tax we'll talk about is capital gain tax. This is a tax charged on gains accrued on disposal of assets. It is when any capital sum is derived from a sale, lease, transfer, or any transaction assignment that you pay capital gain tax. So basically, it is tax on gain. So if there is no gain, there is no need for capital gain tax. So any gain on any transaction is where it's on that gain that you have to pay your capital gain tax, and it's usually 10%. And transactions where capital gain tax are required, sale of land, lease and or assignment on transfer of property. So now let's talk about the persons, because there are some people that are exempted from paying capital gain tax, and these persons are probably religious bodies, charitable or educational institutions of a public character, or statutory registered friendly societies, or cooperative societies, or trade unions, or where gains are accrued to any local government, or where the deposition is by way of gift. So the next tax now that we'll be talking about is personal income tax, and this is governed by the Personal Income Tax Act. It is a tax paid on profits of an income arising from a right granted to any person for the use or occupation of property in Nigeria, and is usually paid by an individual or a group or a business, and it is usually 10% as well. And the next one is companies income tax, and this is only applicable to companies. And the next one is tenement rates. Tenement rates are charges imposed on houses or buildings within a state. So it is charged by virtue of the tenement rate laws of that particular state. And although there are some buildings that are exempted from paying tenement rates, and these are buildings that are occupied for the purpose of religious centers, or maybe cemeteries, burial grounds, or non-profit making institutions engaged in charitable or educational purposes. So like I said, aside these relevant taxes that I've just explained, there are also relevant charges and fees that you paid, and I mentioned registration fees, consent fees, and ground rent. So consent fees is the fees that are required to pay for you to obtain governor's consent. We've spoken about the importance of governor's consent once in about 2 sessions ago, so you can still go back and refer to it if you want to understand the importance of obtaining governor's consent. So basically, there are some transactions that you need to obtain governor's consent, which include mortgage, sale of land, or lease. So where those transactions are required, you also require governor's consent. In order for you to get that, you have to pay a particular fee, which is the consent fee. Then the next one is the registration fee, and this is required to be paid under various land instrument registration laws of the states before a document can be registered. And next one is ground rent, and this is usually charged by the governor of a state for the grant of right of occupancy in respect of undeveloped properties in accordance with terms and conditions of the grant of right of occupancy. So basically, these are the important laws, these are important taxes and charges and fees that are required in real estate. And it is important for you as a property owner, or someone who occupies a property or is interested in acquiring a property, to be familiar and know these laws, these taxes, and the laws that govern them as well. Because where you do not pay, or where you flout, or you do not comply with tax obligations, this can lead to penalties and legal consequences. So it is important for you to know these taxes and pay these taxes. I hope you all have been able to learn something.